AML package, a new approach towards fighting organized crime and money laundering, because organized crime cannot exist without proceeds of crime that are the engine for continuing the criminal business operations. So if we are able to seize and forfeit the proceeds of crime, we can actually eliminate organized criminal activity. Easy to say, but much more difficult to achieve. And that is one of the reasons why we have the new set of regulations, commonly known as the AML package. And the AML package actually consists of 4 elements. 3 of them are the EU regulations, which means that those regulations apply directly, and we do not need to issue or implement any local laws to follow them. And one is the 6th AML directive, and this time the AML directive addresses only the obligations of the EU member states. The whole package is aimed at improving the coordinated effort in discovery of instances of money laundering amongst the transactions or attempted transactions that happen in the environment where the obliged institutions operate, and basically eliminate the criminal proceeds from financial circulation. This reel is aimed at a brief introduction of the basic concepts of all 4 elements of the AML package, and in the preceding reels I will explain more in detail the ideas and concepts behind the AML package of regulations. Today we'll have 4 stops, 4 slides following this one, where I will briefly introduce you into the concepts that are embedded in the wording of the Directive 2024/1640, which is the 6th AML directive, as said, addressing the member states of the European Union. And then this directive is followed by 3 regulations. First is the regulation 2024/1620, which is establishing the anti-money laundering authority based in Frankfurt. Regulation 2023/1113 is the regulation that actually addresses a very specific topic, but very important as well, which is the information accompanying transfers of funds and also certain crypto assets, because we know that crypto assets and the crypto operations are becoming more and more present in the business environment, and therefore they also need to be addressed and covered. So we have cryptocurrency operators and crypto asset operators being covered by the AML regulations, but we also have to ensure that the information accompanying transfer of those crypto assets enables us to, first of all, identify the counterparties of the transaction, so knowing who is the payer and who is the payee of the transfer, and also to be able to monitor consciously any links between the actors that participate in the exchange of crypto assets present in financial circulation. And last but not least, we have the regulation 2024-1624, which is actually the AML regulation per se, which is the regulation addressing the obliged institutions. Slightly refreshed, slightly enhanced in terms of, for instance, addressing directly the 3 lines of defense and the need for the independence of the compliance function amongst the 3 lines of defense, and a few more elements that I will highlight in a minute. All 4, so 3 regulations and the directive are actually changing the paradigm of, or at least the philosophy of the paradigm of fighting money laundering, because so far the law enforcement and also the covered obliged institutions have been focusing on one hand on the names, entities highlighted by the law enforcement as potentially associated with a business activity known to the law enforcement, and therefore also the predicate offense for money laundering was known from law enforcement. Therefore, knowing where the assets are placed, it's much easier to prove beyond reasonable doubt that specific or particular portion of assets is deriving from committing a known predicate offense. It's much more difficult to discover, identify a suspicious transaction associated with money laundering, which might be then proved beyond reasonable doubt that is indeed associated with criminal activity. So on one hand, we had those known entities, individuals that had been suspected of involvement in organized crime, and on the other hand, plenty of compliance obligations, reporting obligations embedded in regulations where the obliged institutions were spending, and I was talking about that in my previous reel of this podcast, are spending billions of dollars, billions of euros on compliance programs, on systems, on technology and processes around this technology, and people operating the systems around the technology, and all of that for the sake of reporting, more or less, because at the end of the day, most of discovery was still based on the known facts and facts brought by the law enforcement agencies. So where we knew the predicate offense, this paradigm did not change, but this set of regulations is aimed at changing it. So let's move on. Speaking about the directive 1640, addressing the obligations of the EU member states, we should bear in mind, or it's worth to mention that this directive is bringing the end for a free acquiring of residence for investment. Now, requiring residence for investments will require a lot of more transparency around the individuals that are applying for this residence. It will be much more difficult actually to set up presence within the borders of EU member states. Also, the directive confirms the concept of development of national and EU risk assessments provided to the obliged institutions, supporting them in developing their own risk maps in respect of AML. Of course, annual communication of money laundering statistics with European Commission and the new established AML authority, and a lot of requirements set for building databases with very important information consisting of data about publicly exposed persons, machine readable information about ownership of real property, or expensive yachts or vehicles, and all of that, and of course more accurate enhanced sanctions vetting. And there will be obligations. There are actually obligations already set for member states, not only to expect from the obliged institutions to verify presence, for instance, on sanctions lists, but also to verify the registers per se by the administrators of these registers being the public authorities. There is a requirement for bank account registers. For instance, in Poland we have it already, but it's gonna be a register applicable to all EU member states. And what is very, very important in this respect, there will be more coordinated effort. These databases will be operational. They will be interconnected. There will be API, so there will be interfaces connecting them. And the idea is that at some point in time, we'll be able to verify all these data sets from one either graphical user interface or API enabled for obliged institutions. So it will be much easier, much faster to verify that the specific individual is a publicly exposed person, or we know who the ultimate beneficial owner is, or will be able to more efficiently verify the presence on sanctions lists. To support the effort, there is already set up the AML authority. Obviously, the recruitment for personnel, over 400 people, is still in progress. There is election of the general manager, and all the administration of AMLA is being developed as we speak. However, this is a deal-breaking solution, because AMLA, on one hand, will supervise some of the higher risk obliged institutions. On the other hand, will coordinate the effort and standardize the effort towards preventing and early detection of money laundering across the whole European Union territory, and not case-by-case basis, so done as it is now independently by countries, which takes time and it's not as efficient as the coordinated approach. With the information accompanying money transfers and the transfer of crypto assets, certain regulations have been set already and are expected to enter into force December this year, so December 2024. And what is new here is not only that this information needs to follow the transfers, but also all the players of the transfer of value will be also responsible for monitoring and verification that this information is indeed accompanying this transfers of assets, and respond to the incomplete information, stop these transfers and ask questions, communicate with the supervisory authorities. And last but not least, the AML regulation, being the first in history of the EU, one that actually applies to all obliged institution regulation, does not require country implementation, which actually is aimed at bringing consistency. And the regulation actually confirms or repeats some of the solutions that were already in place, but keeps them in one document. And there will be also guidelines from AMLA enhancing some of the general ideas and concepts embedded in the wording of this regulation. What is maybe important to mention is that the independence of the compliance role and the obligation for the obliged institution to support compliance in providing resources, technology to execute its function. It's said clearly. That's it for the introduction, for the unboxing. Thank you for bearing with me, and we'll see each other, I hope, in the next episode of my podcast. See you next time.